So I am going to share really quick. I'm going to try to go very fast. Just following after Henry, I'm like, my God, I feel like now I have to jump and do backflips over here, catch your energy. He's on fire. So want to share briefly my testimony. Happily married. I've been with my wife for 23 years. I know you all think I'm 18, but I've been with my wife for 23 years. I have a 11-year-old daughter. So proud of her. Founder of multiple companies, investor, public speaker, generosity advocate. Why am I a generosity advocate? I really believe that the secret to truly living is giving, right? There is only so much happiness we get from getting. When we begin to give, that's where it's truly at, right? The fulfillment, the mandate, that's how you gain influence. You give, right? You empower. And that's one of the passions that I have myself. Hosea 4:6 says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, right? Now, think about it. Do we lack really knowledge? We have the Word of God in electronic devices. We have Google, we have ChatGPT. We live in an information of age. Like, there's so much information, right? But men are not driven to information. Men that rise and conquer and drive, we don't want information. We want wisdom, right? What's the difference between information and wisdom? It's like Henry said, there will be times that God gives you an idea, a vision or something, and you're like, man, that didn't come from Google, right? That didn't come from YouTube, right? You know that's a vision that God gave you. And I want to encourage you today. The reason why I believe I've been able to accomplish all this stuff is because God gave me a vision, right? And I'm a true believer that where God gives vision, He gives provision. All right, so there is a lot of things that you could be investing in today, right? There is stocks, there is bonds, there is options, real estate, collectibles, antiques, cryptocurrencies, art, mutual funds. But today I'm going to hone in mainly on two, which is real estate, and I'm gonna teach you also how to invest in real estate via stocks. You excited about it? Come on, let's go. All right, so this is very important. I'd like to open up with just why is investing so important, right? Henry said a lot of things that, I was completely connecting with, because he said multiply, right? If you have read ever the Bible, it talks about the parables of the talents, right? God gave some 5, some 3, to 1, and some multiplied it, and He said, okay, give him more, right? So it can multiply. The one that He gave 1 to and buried it under the ground, He said, let's take it away and let's give it to the people that know how to multiply, right? And I believe that, like Henry said, through my teaching, hear what God wants to tell you, right? How are you going to multiply what God is entrusting to you to lead, right? How are you going to multiply? If you have 500 a month, how are you going to multiply that? If you cannot manage 10,000 a year, how are you going to handle 50,000 a year, right? Or a month? Because 10,000 a year, if you're making 10,000 a year, well, you're in the wrong crowd, right? But if you cannot manage 50,000 a year, then how is God entrust you with 500,000 a year, right? And if you can't manage that, how is He going to entrust you with 5 million a year, right? That's why you're here. You're here to learn wisdom. How am I going to invest my money to make it grow and lead, right? So one of the things that you've heard lately in TV and everywhere is inflation, right? How many of you have heard that word before? Recently, inflation, right? Well, just make it very simple, right? Things go up in price at about 3 to 4% per year, right? When we go through supply chain shocks or the tariff dilemmas and stuff, things might take a bit higher, right? But that's across the board. Rich, poor, ugly, and good-looking men, they're all dealing with the same inflation, okay? So you gotta think immediately. If I'm not making 4% more per year of whatever your income is, you're already losing purchasing power, okay? Now, that's just the price of goods that we all consume, right? Milk, fuel, groceries at the store. But what about the most assets are going up in price by about 8 to 12% per year. So if you're not buying stocks like the S&P 500 that goes up 8 to 12% per year, and then you add the inflation of the everything else, you add it up. If you're not making 12 to 15% extra per year, you're losing purchasing power. Are you with me? All right. So that means if all my guys right here, all my brothers here, your average income is 100,000. That means next year you gotta be making 115,000 just to keep up with inflation. Are you with me? So today I want to teach you how not only can you keep up with inflation, but how do you beat inflation? How can you come up at the top next year? Are you with me? All right. Households making less than 80,000, very likely not beating inflation. And let me tell you why. Because most households making less than 80, you're probably just paying the bills, just paying the house, paying the car, and maybe you go to the movies every once in a while. But you're not building a portfolio of assets like real estate, stocks, crypto, etc. So the middle class is getting really crushed, right? Because inflation keeps happening every year. And if you don't own these assets, you're losing purchasing power. Okay? So to beat inflation, you must own good performing assets like real estate, collectibles, like the wheel that I showed you up there, right? Gold, silver, land, and things that go up in price more than inflation. How many people in here are in your 20s? Raise your hand, please. In your 20s. What about in your 30s? Okay, so about half the room. And then in your 40s. All right, some of us were already in our 40s. Perfect. Thank you for sharing that because that helps me help you, okay? So, if you made how many of you have children in this room? You have children. Okay, the majority of us, great. Okay, so then you'll understand this. When your child is born, if you were to open up a stock account and just put $10,000, okay, when your child is born, by the age, and that's a one-time thing. If you were to put just 10 grand when your child is born, and you just, by the time that child is 10 years old, if it's growing at about 15% per year, those 10,000 would have become 38,000 in 10 years. If you don't touch that money and you let it grow another 10 years, by 20 years old, now you have $170,000 just by having the money work for you, right? For your child. If you wait till that child is 30 years old, you have 754 grand because it's compounded every year, right? If you wait till that child is 40 and then they have access to it, now they have $3.3 million. How many of you think that's a great idea, right? You have the marketplace work for you. You're just investing wisely in stocks. Now, the reason why I give this example is because is your child ready to be handed a $3 million check at 20 years old? No, right? Most likely no. Is your child ready at 30 years old? Maybe, right? But I think the power age really becomes that 40-year age because now they've failed, they've had some success, some failures, right? But now they're really to multiply, right? I tell my daughter, I said, look, everything I own will be yours, right? Unless you don't know how to multiply it. I say, as long as you teach me, you show me over the next 30, 40 years that you know how to multiply your money, everything I own will be yours, okay? So now, maybe you couldn't do that for your children, right? But the second best thing you could do is in your 20s, if you're in your 20s, $500 a month, so you make money, you budget it right, and you invest $500 a month on stocks, right? And you do that for 30 years, you have 3 million by age 50. That's pretty good, right? It's pretty decent. Not too bad. Now, if you're in your 30s, because I saw some of you were in your 30s here. If you do $1,000 per month in stocks for 30 years, you have about $6 million at age 60, okay? And if you're 25 years old and you do a one-time investment of 50,000 in stocks and 1,000 per month at 20%, which is very active investing, right? You don't make 20% per year unless you're actively researching and studying and moving funds from here to there. But if you do that and you can accomplish that, you can have up to $15 million by age 50. So this is how you beat inflation, okay? If you were expecting something easy, and be rich, that doesn't exist. It's hard work. I believe the men in this room, you know that, right? All right, great. So let's talk about real estate. Again, I'm gonna hone in on how can you invest in real estate to beat inflation, to build wealth for you and your family and the vision that God has given you. So I would say the first step would be become a homeowner, right? If you don't even own a house, I think you need to start by becoming a homeowner. The second level would be buy rental properties for retirement or for cash flow. Another strategy would be to flip homes. Another strategy is short-term rentals, mid-term rentals. Another strategy will be to invest in private equity in apartment complexes. Many times in some deals, you need a minimum of $100,000 to invest in an apartment complex, right? So you can become a limited partner on that deal. You can invest in data centers via stocks, commercial real estate, multi-use, or you can become an accredited investor, which it's, last time I checked, to become an accredited investor, you need to be making at least $250,000 a year, or you need to have a net worth of at least $1 million, right? And then you get access to some private deals and you get to invest in the big leagues with some investors, right? So that's pretty much, I'm painting the big picture of many things you can invest in real estate. Again, right here, investment options, single family. This is just statistics, right? On how much money can you produce by investing in some of these things. So single family rentals, 6 to 10% average. Multifamily, 5 to 10% on cash average. Commercial properties, 6 to 12% return per year. From 1972 to 2019, the REITs on average returned 11.8 annually and typically offered dividends, okay? So it's like cash flow. Other determining factors when you are investing is depreciation, taxes, location, property appreciation, vacancies, etc., okay? So home ownership. If you can afford to buy, right? Because real estate will continue to go up in price. Now, if buying a house is gonna make you house broke, I would say don't buy, right? Because it would be better if you just rent and save money, and that money you invest it, right? So if you can afford to buy. Whenever interest rates drop, you refinance and you lower your interest rate, lowering your payment, right? Or you can buy a duplex or a triplex and rent the other units and you live in one of them. Again, it depends on your situation, right? If you have a family, I doubt they're gonna wanna move in a duplex, right? But it's a case-by-case scenario. If you can afford to buy, again, do it. Refinance when interest rates drop and start building wealth. If you don't know the pathway to home ownership, I can help you. We've helped many families to become homeowners and to also invest in real estate. So if you feel like, man, rental properties is like the thing that gets me excited, right? I talk to a lot of people and they say, rental properties, I want to buy a rental property. I already own my house and now I want to start buying properties. Okay, that's fine. How can you do that? You have to start saving money, right? To invest, because you're going to need 5 to 20% plus closing costs when you buy a rental property, right? Rental properties are good because they help you with tax write-offs, the depreciation, right? Expenses of operating a business, of rental properties. So you can build a portfolio and then you graduate to doing owner finance, which is, that's what I like. You become the bank, right? So for example, when I do a owner finance, I buy maybe some land, okay, for like 70 to 100,000. I personally like the mobile home framework. So I buy a mobile home for another 30, 40. So I might have 160, 170 invested in it. and I go owner finance it to somebody for $300,000, right? They give me a down payment and then I charge them 10% interest rate. So then, do they call me for a broken toilet? No, because they own it, right? They don't call me for nothing. They call me just to say, I got your check, I got your money, and that's what I like, right? So you start buying all these properties, great cash flow, great way to build wealth, and then you just buy more. And then you can, if you have a good strategy, you can do 1 per year, 2 per year, right? As God, again, the whole thing is to multiply, right? That's what we're learning here, that how do we command on earth, right? More money you have, the more options you have. It's not about the money, right? It's about picking up your children on time from school, attending their events, right? Whenever they have stuff, traveling with your spouse, being able to make a difference when your family has a need. That's what it's about. It's not about the money, but the rental properties, the owner finance, the stocks, all of that is to empower you to have the resources to do whatever you need to do. Your car breaks down, fix it or buy a new one, whatever, right? You're not worried about the finances, using it on a credit card and then falling behind on payments and all that stuff. So rental properties is a good strategy. Flipping houses is another thing that I love to do, okay? So the average capital needed to flip a house, if you're starting up, it's about 100,000. Why? Because you're gonna have to give some down payment for the hard money lender, and then you're gonna need some money for repairs. People come to me all the time. Oh, can I flip a house? Yeah. How much money you have? $500. You can't do it, right? Go back to saving more money, right? Okay. So, or you can partner with somebody that has the money, right? They have the money. You're gonna go get the know-how to do it, right? And you execute the plan. They have the money, but they don't have the time. You have the time, but not the money, right? It's called sweat equity. You're gonna put in the sweat equity, right? And you can begin to flip houses. You can use a hard money lender. Or a lot of people that I know that come into the sphere of they want to flip houses, but they don't have the money. They become wholesalers, right? They begin to knock on doors, get houses under contract, and then they sell them to investors like myself. We buy it cash, and they make a fee, right? $10,000, $5,000. Some wholesalers make up to $20,000 per deal, and they never use any of their money, right? That's pretty good. So learn how to find good deals, line up the capital needed, right? And then in average, you'll make 10 to 30,000 or maybe more than 30,000 per flip. It's gonna depend, right? If there is a hard money lender involved, you're gonna be making 10 to 15, at best maybe 20 with the hard money lender. Once, I did that, that's how I started, right? I had to use a hard money. Then I started saving all my profits, right? And then I became the hard money lender. So I finance my own deals now. I remove the hard money lender so I can add about 10 to 15,000 extra per flip that I do, right? So again, there's a pathway, right? But if you start being a good steward of the little, more will be entrusted to you, right? But if you can be a good steward of the little, then I doubt you'll get to the point where, we're flipping 15, 20 houses. Our goal is 50 houses per year, okay? That's a lot of property, right? That's millions. That's a lot of millions of dollars of property. Learn the process, master the process. That's where I'm at. I'm mastering the process, right? How do you do quantity? Well, you need multiple crews, multiple teams, a lot of moving parts, right? There's just a lot of moving parts at that point. So again, learn how to beat the average market returns, 8 to 12% per year. We talked about inflation. We talked about the potential returns of the different types of investments, right? So now your goal is to go beat that, right? So for example, for me, every time I flip a house, I'm making about 15% on every flip on my capital, right? So if I invest $250,000, I'm making close to 30 to 40,000 return, right? Am I beating inflation? 100%, especially because I'm doing it a $250,000 block of money. I'm turning it over about 4 times per year. So I look at it per blocks, right? If I need $250,000 to invest in one property to make 15%, if I do it 4 times per year, how much am I making? 15%, 30%, 45%, 60%. Am I beating the market? Am I beating the S&P 500? All day, right? When does it get harder? Well, now when I'm flipping 20 houses and I have a lot of money on the side, now I have to look at how many blocks of $250,000 do I have, right? Can I pull that off? Can I put 4 horses, right? To run 4 races every year, right? So I can make 60% on 4 horses, right? Now you're looking at 16 properties, right? 4 times 4, 16, right? But as I keep building this capital, it's like it gets harder and harder each time, right? So then you have to begin to diversify into other things, other horses that run fast. You're with me? So that's how you have your money working for you. But again, you're probably not there, right? Where you have $2-3 million to keep growing them, right? But wherever you are, make sure you're beating the market, okay? You don't have an excuse. If I meet you in 5 years again, I better be hearing that you're beating the market, right? Because you've had a lot of time to research, to study, to figure out how to beat inflation, how to beat the market, okay? You're with me? All right. Commercial, another thing you can invest in, right? Again, we talked about you eventually want to work your way into becoming an accredited investor, right? You're making more than $250,000 a year. You have over $1 million net worth, and you invest in private deals. People, you start having that kind of money, I get calls all the time. Hey, can you invest in this apartment complex with me? I said, no, because I've already done that, right? I've already done that, and I know that I'm going to tie up my money for 7 years. And I don't like that. Meaning, it's cool. For some people, it's fine, right? Because like Henry said, hear what God is speaking to you, right? For me, I've done it. And the fact that I just have to sit $100,000 and say goodbye for 7 years, I hate that idea, personally. I like to move my stuff around, okay? But that's just me. Here in this room, we have all kinds of different personalities, right? So you can invest in apartment complexes. Your returns are pretty consistent. You beat the market, right? Invest in commercial real estate. You can do that by being an accredited investor and in partner with somebody that does commercial, or you can find stocks that's what those big companies, that's what they do. And then you buy a fraction, right? By buying stocks. Or you can invest in a car wash business. I know guys that own car washes and they like that. Or you can buy a retail store and then you operate a laundry business, right? Again, it's just what is God stirring in you, right? We all know different people. Who are you going to partner with? Are you going to do it alone? Like just you, I want God to begin to speak to you. Or are you going to invest in land, right? I know developers that are crazy. Like they go buy 10 acres, right? Then they subdivide those 10 acres into 500 lots for single family homes, right? So it's like, well, what is God calling you to do? Or you can become a builder, right? You begin to build houses. Or you invest in stocks of builders, right? Start somewhere and beat the market, okay? All right. Stocks, one of my favorite things to invest in. Start by opening a brokerage account with Fidelity. Have you guys heard of Fidelity? It's a brokerage account, right? Or Robinhood. A lot of you guys have heard of Robinhood, right? Open an account. Start buying stocks. Diversify across sectors. Invest in a mix of residential builders. I'm going to give you some names, some ideas. Various REITs sectors. Spread the risk, right? Don't just invest in one thing unless you're an expert at it. Then that's fine. Go all in one thing. Monitor interest rates. The stocks, especially about real estate, are very sensitive to interest rates, right? So if I know the Fed is about to hike interest rates, guess what I do? I either I buy a put or something where I make money where it goes down, or I sell my stuff, right? Because I know that stocks are going to come down if the Fed hikes interest rates, right? If I know they're going to drop interest rates, I buy, right? Because as soon as they announce it, my stocks are going to rally, right? But you got to be passionate about it because it's something that you have to continue to study every month, month after month, month after month. What's going to happen, right? Invest in stocks that yield dividends. REITs are known for their dividend payouts. So I'm going to give you some examples of stocks you can buy. Like B&Q is stocks, right, from good quality commercial investing real estate companies. So you're buying a basket of a bunch of them, right? Or you can invest in REITs, which is, again, groups. There is this group that owns 500 malls, right? And if you buy shares, you own a piece of all those 500 malls, right? For example, SPG, DHI is D.R. Horton, who's the biggest builder in America, right? So you can own a piece of them. When COVID happened, I sold all my D.R. Horton stuff because I knew the real estate was gonna go down, right? Because people couldn't buy and do different things. So I did the same thing with oil. When COVID happened, sold my oil. But when it hit bottom, I bought a lot of oil. When the market started opening back up, oil just rallied and I made a ton of money on oil. Consult with the financial advisor. I can coach you as well, though only for serious people, right? I'm not a financial advisor. I hold no license on financial advisor, but I only know by experience, right? I've invested in stocks for 17 years, okay? So you can invest in stocks. Research it, YouTube it, TikTok it, I don't care. Just get educated and beat the market. Are you with me? Beat the market, okay? Say with me, I'm going to beat the market. There you go. I love it. Okay, so now let me talk to you about this. The best opportunities for different generations, right? So our grandparents, your grandparents and my grandparents, the greatest investment opportunity they had was to buy a bunch of real estate 120 years ago, right? Imagine if your grandparents had bought New York, Chicago, California, when all these houses were $20,000, $30,000, right? And they just held for wealth generation, which is, again, hear what the Spirit has to tell you, right? This is how you build wealth. You have to think long term. You have to be thinking, because if you say, oh, I want to get rich quick overnight, you're going to buy the wrong things on YouTube. You're just going to lose money, and it's going to be a setback rather than a setup, right? For what you're trying to build for your family. So our grandparents' best investment would have been real estate, right? Say it with me, real estate. Okay, what about for our parents? What would have been the best investment that our parents could have done? Is to buy stocks, right? Imagine they would have bought Amazon on the cheap. They would have bought Apple on the cheap for dollars, right? They would have bought all these Starbucks, Uber, all these stocks that were super cheap. If they had just bought stocks like crazy, right? From every paycheck or from if they own rentals, every time they get money, they reinvested it. Imagine how much money they would have built by just being consistent, right? If they just had bought stocks, they would be multimillionaires, right? And they would have built wealth that they could have passed down to you to continue to grow it, right? And it would have been wealth that you can pass down to your children, right? Isn't that what the Bible says? A wise person leaves an inheritance to his children's children, right? That's our mandate, like Henry says, right? That's what we're called to do, is build wealth. Now, for us, what is an asset class that is poised with potential? Again, you can invest in real estate. Gold has had an amazing rally this last year. Index funds, disruptive technology. You know, who's aware of AI? Right? AI is the .com for us, right? So we better invest wisely in the wave of AI, right? Artificial intelligence, blockchain, Bitcoin, crypto, genomics, vertical farming, just things that come to my mind, right? So our opportunity, if I do a lot of studying on this, right? So the wave for us is good quality assets, right? That are time tested. And then also you have to catch a fresh wave, right? What's the wave that our grandparents had? What was it? What was the wave of our parents? Stocks. The biggest wave for us as an industry is going to be crypto. Okay? Crypto is going to be, it's a massive, right now, if you just track some stuff like Google or ChatGPT, research the graph of adoption for cryptocurrencies. It's growing at the rate faster than the cell phone and the internet. Okay? As a wave, worldwide. It's domino effect, right? It's growing by millions and millions of adoption every month. It's crazy, right? How many of you here have heard of cryptocurrencies? Okay? If you haven't, spend some time researching it because that's the wave, okay? It's cryptocurrencies is where blockchain will marry artificial intelligence, okay? So if you can capture this wave, and don't just invest in what people call meme coins, that they have no use case, no utility, no scarcity, right? Invest in good quality crypto projects that have all those things I just said, utility, scarcity, right? That there's a purpose for it. Invest on those in a basket of them. The industry is evolving very rapidly. Now Fidelity, before you couldn't even buy Ethereum or Bitcoin on Fidelity. Now you can buy Bitcoin and Ethereum on Fidelity. In Robinhood, you can already buy a bunch of different cryptos. Coinbase is also one of the biggest platforms. They're about to be added to the S&P 500, Coinbase, which is crazy. So now everybody in the retirement fund, whether they want or not, they're about to hold some crypto. That's crazy. All right? Because when people get drafted from their paychecks to be invested on the S&P, now they're going to be buying a part of the crypto industry. And research it because everybody has different tax implications, right? So consider from all angles what you want to do, okay? So investment options for individual stocks, they're riskier. So you must know what you're doing, right? When you're buying stocks, or you can lose a lot of money too if you buy the wrong things. Same thing with crypto. If you buy something that has no use case, it can go to zero. And if you put 1,000, you can lose all $1,000, okay? But think about this. What I said about our parents, if they had just consistently bought stocks, right? The average return for Amazon per year has been 32.4%. Is Amazon beating the average inflation? 100%. By how much? About 20%. That's crazy, right? So if your parents had just bought Amazon or you, been set, right? Google, average yearly return, 23.7% per year, right? What about the king of crypto, Bitcoin? Over the last 10 years, 80% per year. That's crazy. That's wild, right? But again, at the beginning, a lot more risk because the government hadn't adopted, right? It wasn't as well as it's known worldwide. Now countries are buying it, states are buying it, municipalities are buying it. Like it's now is the fastest horse on the race, okay? Again, no financial advice. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I'm just here to give you education. Are you with me? All right. So this is another powerful thing to keep in mind, okay? There is the silent generation, the baby boomers. How much money are they transferring to their children and grandchildren? $68 trillion, right? Right now, I believe 10,000 baby boomers are retiring per day. Crazy. Imagine. A lot of people, right? So now, all of us here in this room that are 30, 40, they're starting to pass down that money, right? So is that money gonna go where our grandparents and parents felt comfortable in investing it? No, it's gonna go where this generation feels confident in investing it, right? So you can benefit of those trends, of those patterns. Where's all that money gonna go, right? They're passing that money down to the generation next, the millennials, right? Or now, the Gen Zs and all that different, right? So where are people investing? Stocks, crypto, blockchain, genomics, autonomous, right? The self-driving cars, right? Metaverse, NFTs, DAOs, new technology. It's evolving. So become familiar, again, because the goal is to beat inflation, right? Beat the market. How are you going to do that? You have to study, right? Where am I going to invest my money? Here is a chart that I've created for you. How do you buy stocks wisely? Take a picture of it. Because if your cousin calls you, say, man, you got to buy that Walmart stock. You got to ask why. What makes it so unique? Or if your cousin calls you, oh, you got to buy that GameStop. Why? You buy it at the peak. Now it goes down 80% because you have no clue what you're doing. So I'm saving you a lot of losses here by just asking these questions. Okay, what are the questions that I want you to ask? Fundamental versus technical analysis, right? Study that. I understand it because I've studied it for many years. What's the price to earning ratio? That's a question you ask your cousin who says, buy GameStop. I assure you, you ask him, what's the price to earning ratio? And he'll be like, I don't know. Then why would I buy it? Right? Does the company have projected growth? You know, Warren Buffett has beat the S&P 500. Look it up. How Warren Buffett, one of the greatest investors in history, how did he beat the S&P 500? He created thousands of percents of returns for his investors. Does the company have a lot of debt? Right? Is the company in a healthy financial situation? Do they have savings? Is it in a sector that I understand? Maybe you love technology. Well, then maybe you invest in IBM and Apple and all these technology companies. And the S&P 500, it breaks down into different sectors, right? So whatever sector you're passionate about, study it and start buying stocks in that sector. Because if it doesn't catch your attention, are you really going to read up on it? No. But if it catches your attention, it's like, oh man, I want to invest in Tesla. I own a Tesla, so I own some Tesla stock, right? So invest in stuff that catches your attention and you're going to have the energy to follow up, right? Does it trade in an ETF or index fund? That's another question to ask. Is it in a low or high technical cycle? Does it pay dividends? Is this an emotional decision or do I have strong fundamentals and key technical analysis entry? Am I willing to hold the stock, crypto during a recession or downtrend, during a war? Is the stock in an uptrend, sideways trend, downtrend? Always buy low, sell high, right? Because nothing more frustrating than you buy high here and then it goes down. You want to feel excited, right? So when you buy, make sure it's at a low. So worst case, it goes down lower, you get more excited, you buy more, right? And this is a Warren Buffett philosophy. If you're not willing to hold the stock for 10 years, don't buy it, right? Because you should be solid about the stock that you're buying. You should feel really good about it, that if it goes down, you're not panicking. You're buying more because you understand their debt, their dividends, their process, the growth, all these questions, right? You research it, and now you buy it, it goes down, you don't feel like, oh my gosh. It's like, great, let's buy more, right? I tell people, because I started buying Bitcoin at 15,000, right? Now it's at what? 100, right? You feel good about it. You don't understand is I had to put hundreds and hundreds of hours of understanding this thing, right? Then I started buying it, getting my feet wet. Then Elon Musk is like, oh, we're going to put it on the Tesla reserves. And I was like, great. And then I got to ride that wave all the way to 69,000, right? In the 2021 cycle. Then came back down, 15,000. And then you're like, man, did I invest in the right thing? But you got to keep studying it, right? And then you double down, you buy more, and then it goes up and you feel really good about it, right? Projections are it's going to get to over $1 million, right? But you have to, if I ask you why, you got to be able to understand why, right? What's going to drive that? And same thing, when you flip a house, why are you buying it? Are you buying it right? Right? Or even a rental property, are you buying it right? Or if you're going to invest in a stock for real estate, like research it. Like, what are you buying, right? So all those things, is all of that making sense? Is it helping you? Are you going to beat the market? Okay, come on, let's go. And I'm going to close with this one. And it's crazy because Henry was talking about this. He actually mentioned this, the story of the eagle, right? I'm going to give you the story of the farm. So there's this eagle that got placed on a chicken farm, okay? So the farmer didn't even notice it. He was just, feeding the chickens every day so he could sell them and they can have eggs and stuff. So he has this person that comes and buys chickens every month, right? So he says, hey, I'm going to buy another 20 this month. Great, okay. So he starts throwing all these chickens in his truck. And then he says, hey, this one is not a chicken. You're trying to cheat me, trying to throw an eagle in it. He's like, no, it's a chicken. It's like, it's not a chicken. It's an eagle. So the guy's like, how much? The guy that's buying it, he says, how much do you want to bet that this is not a chicken? It's an eagle. He's like, I'll bet you $20. Okay, bet. He's like, we're going to go on top of this hill and then we're going to throw it, right? If it spreads its wings and flies, then you know that it's an eagle. And the farmer says, bro, you're going to kill that chicken, right? It's not a chicken. It's not an eagle, it's a chicken. So they go on top of this hill and this guy throws the eagle, right? And eagle doesn't spread its wings and it just flops, right? And just turns like in the dirt. So the farmer says, see, I told you it's not an eagle, it's a chicken. And the guy that buys this says, no, it's an eagle. He says, I'm going to go on a higher mountain and then I'm going to throw it again. And you'll see it's going to open its wings and fly. He says, okay, but he says, pay it up front because you're going to kill it, right? He says, okay, here, I'll pay you. But if I win, you're going to pay me what I paid you plus the $20. Okay. So they go on this higher hill and throws the eagle. And the eagle kind of wants to spread its wings, but doesn't open them, and it flops again, right? So the farmer's like, I told you, bro, this is not an eagle, it's a chicken. And the guy's like, bro, it's an eagle, I'm telling you. Let's go to a higher mountain, but this time much higher. And the farmer says, don't do it, you're gonna kill the chicken, right? And he says, bro, trust me. Like, this is an eagle, it's gonna open its wings, it's gonna fly. So he goes to this massively high mountain and then he throws the eagle, right? And the eagle is on its way down, starts kind of opening its wings, start kind of flopping them, right? And then all of a sudden this eagle starts flying. It opens its wings and it starts flying. And this guy gets super happy. He's like, see, bro, I told you this is an eagle. This is an eagle, I told you. But the eagle had been so much time with the chickens that he failed a couple of times to open its wings, right? And hear what the Spirit has to say, but watch. That's why I love that you're here, right? Because who you surround yourself with, you will become an average of those, okay? So be very diligent when you're hanging out with people. Do these people by your side, have they normalized debt? Are they investors like you? Are they trying to beat the market like you? Do they prioritize their health? Do they prioritize what they're drinking? Do they prioritize the relationship with their spouse, their relationship with their children? Are they builders, right? Are they, like Henry said, are they leading in their city, right? Or are these people that are always dragging? You gotta motivate them. You gotta tell them to get up early. And like, what's your environment? If you find yourself in a tough spot, spreading your wings and flying, I would say be careful who you've made it normal to be hanging out with, right? Because it's like the parable of the eagle, right? If you're struggling, spreading your wings, is because you haven't been thrown for the heights, right? To take the city, make it yours, like Henry said, right? So my prayer today is that we will continue to surround ourselves with eagles, and we will own the city, lead in the city, make a difference in the city. Everywhere we go, I pray that you are a thermostat and not a thermometer. What's the difference between a thermometer and a thermostat? A thermostat, right? If somebody prays, you pray, right? If somebody's warm, you feel warm. Somebody's cold, you're cold, right? But a thermostat, what does a thermostat do? If I set the temperature here at 90 with the heater, it's gonna get hot, right? And that's what Henry did earlier. I hope you realize that. He set the atmosphere where it needed to be, right? So everywhere you go, don't be a thermometer. If you go into a meeting and the person is discouraged and down, you elevate, right? You set the standard on that meeting, right? If you work for somebody and your boss is discouraged, as soon as you step into that room, they're like, man, this guy showed up. Henry showed up. Emmanuel showed up, right? Because we're thermostats. Everywhere we go, we set the environment. And it's going to be a positive, godly, wisdom, good energy, everything good. When they say, man, I want to bring this guy to the room, right? Because every time I'm around him, he's building up, right? He's a king. He's a leader, right? Everything he touches, I don't know why, but it seems to grow, right? He has the golden touch, right? Everything he touches, they do great. You talk about investments, you're not talking about gossip. It's a different mind frame, right? And I speak that over you, that you will be that type of man in your family, that people will begin to go to you for wise counsel, for advice, because they see you and you're shining on top of a hill. They're like, man, I want to be like that person one day, right? Especially younger generations that are lost on the phones, right? On TikTok. It's like, no, I got to listen to my uncle. I got to listen to my dad. Got to listen to my cousin. That man has something on his life, and I want part of that. Are you all with me? Was this helpful? Yes. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you, Henry, for inviting me, bro.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
Bro.